My name is Gloria Kiconco. I'm a Ugandan poet based here in Kampala, the capital city of Uganda. I started writing at a very young age, specifically poetry. I just was always into the rhythm, right, of the words, and I guess I didn't think a lot about why I wrote poetry early on. But when I was about 17, I started performing. And from the time I was 17 until I was about 24, the performance was just that, like it was performance. And I had a lot of inspiration from hip hop and from rap. So my style then was all about like punchlines and rhyme and just like that kind of rhythm in all the work I did. But as I grew older, like around 2016, I would say I started thinking and writing much deeper. So I started exploring the kinds of things I was experiencing, because I grew up in the U.S. So coming back to Uganda was a very difficult shift. So I wrote a lot about identity and belonging. I also wrote a lot about mental health, specifically like depression and anxiety. And I started thinking a lot about like what it means to be a woman. And a lot of feminist themes came out in my poetry because also like the landscape in Kampala has been changing for women in Uganda in general. So it's been more and more difficult to just inhabit a female body in this city and not think about it and think about the experience you're having. So I wrote a lot more about that. So some of the poems I shared, two of them specifically came from a performance I did last year in 2018 called Return to Sender. And this performance was about authority and masculinity, and about like rejected conversations. So in the sense that, and it was looking at family, church, and state. So like in your family, how specifically in African families, at least in mine and others, how with your father it's not really a conversation, right? It's just he tells you what to do. So there's just like this lack of conversation, so it's rejected, and then that's reflected in the church and it's reflected in the state. So I was looking at that, and also how masculinity is shaped by the expectations of society, because much as I think a lot about what it means to be a woman, I also think about what kinds of pressures men are going through that kind of result in the behavior that they have. So I was thinking a lot about the experiences my father had in the U.S., especially in terms of being a black man there. So now I'm at a point where I'm really writing to kind of understand the world better around me. It's less internal and more external. So it's a real pleasure to share my work and have people see themselves in it. But I'm also now interested in exploring what I'm seeing around me and seeing how I can really articulate that. So I love the power of expressing something in just a few lines, and it's just there, right? And you understand it, you feel it, and you can keep returning to it to experience it or purge or whatever you need to do. So that's, I think, the most beautiful thing about poetry to me. Yeah.